Okay, so welcome. Today I propose you to agree basically on two things. One is how are we going to the calendar of the course for the last 2 weeks, that is this week and the last one. And as I told you last time, I prepared the text for the exam. So I'm giving you the text of the exam like a month before the appello. So officially the rules were that I was going to give you the text of the exam 20 days before, but I'm giving it a month before so that you can start working on that. That today also, in a way that today we can read the text together, try to understand the text. Anyway, we will go deeper in this, but as I told you last time, you are also enabled to put comments in the document. So we will have like a week in which you can ask any question you have about the description, any question you have about the requirements, and then after that week, we will keep the text or the final text without any modifications as the official one in which you are going to start to work, okay? So, I don't know if, can you see the screen? Is it clear? Okay, perfect. So the idea is that we are here right now. This is the week 14. Today, we will see the exam text. I will answer questions, and we will try to clarify all of the specifications. Then tomorrow in the morning, we will see some basics on JavaScript, just basics, because JavaScript is a huge topic. And I will just give you some hints about the specific things that you can use in the exam, okay? So the exam won't be about JavaScript. We won't ask super difficult or complex things on JavaScript, but very simple functions that will help you with the exam. Also because in Web Applications 1, you will use a framework that is built on JavaScript. So the idea is not to go deeper on JavaScript, so we will do like a theoretical presentation, and then in the second half, we will do a demo. I will prepare also a very basic lab for Friday on JavaScript, and that's all. And then the next week, we won't have class. Okay, here the dates are wrong, but we won't have class this day because it's 2 June, so it's a holiday. And the other classes that we have next week, which is Monday and Friday, I will give you time to work on the exam. Okay. Anyway, I will be here, so you will be able to ask any question you have and work with me, both in the lesson of Monday and on the Friday's lesson. Okay. So it's not. We will have class, but the space of the class, I will give you time to work on the final exam. Is it clear? Perfect. Okay. So if right now you open the calendar page in the course site, you can click here on the Introduction to Exam text, and you will find the Google Docs document with all of the exam specifications. Okay. So this is how the exam works in this course, and we will go. Indeed, a lot of you have already opened the text. Okay, so what I propose to you today is to read the whole text. If you have any questions, if you have any doubt, both on the requirements but also on the logistics of the exam, let me know, and we will try to clarify everything today. Okay, exam project, exam format. Okay, the exam for the Introduction to the Web Applications consists of 2 closely connected parts, both of which are mandatory. So the first part, as I told you, is to design and implement a web application, of course. And the second part is a demonstration that we will do one-to-one, in which we will open what you sent and we will check that all the requirements were satisfied and the implementation, and that's basically all. Okay? So it's a live demo that accounts for the oral discussion of the exam. The evaluation of the project and the demonstration will concern the material submitted before the exam session. The demonstration and a brief oral discussion regarding the project must be carried out according to a schedule that will be made available a few days before the exam section, after registration for the exam session itself. Here, this one is important. The discussion will focus on the design choices, such as the layout, the code structure, the database structure, as well as implementation and the functional choices that you took. So the exam won't be about memorizing concepts, or won't be about theoretical things that I've said here in the slides, but it is more to figure out how did you reason, or how did you design the implementation, or why did you take some design choices, why did you design the database in this way, why did you implement the roots in this manner. It's more or less to understand the reasoning behind the implementation, okay? So, well, it's not required the night before the exam to read all the slides or to read all the material, because it's not about something theoretical, it's more about something practical. Okay, so the project consists of a web application, of course, that must satisfy a number of technical, stylistic, and functional requirements described below. This one seems obvious, but it's important. So the web application must use the technologies used and tested during the course. So questions such as, can I use Django? Can I use a different framework? Can I use? No. We will use the stack and the same technologies that we have seen in the course, okay? Is it clear? So which ones are them? CSS, HTML, Bootstrap, Flask, SQLite, and well, those ones, okay? Okay, logistical requirements. The project must be carried out individually, so each one must submit his own version of the project. Important, this one. It is not acceptable to have two submissions, two different submissions with the same project. Okay, so a submission that is partially or entirely shared with another student enrolled in the course is not allowed or acceptable. So well, pay attention on this, please. Indeed, because one of the most important things in the course is not just the final implementation, but as I told you before, the reasoning, the design choices that you make, the implementation choices that you make. So well, that's the most important thing. Then the project must be submitted according to the deadlines. This one is, please, let's have this one in mind. So if you submit after the deadline, I can't take into account the project, okay? So please submit before. If you make several submissions, there is no problem. You can do as many submissions as you want. So if, for instance, the day before you say, I already have like a functional version of the project, I want to submit to make sure that at least I have one submission, and maybe the last day you work on the small details, and then you are able to submit another one, it's fine. There is no problem with several submissions, but please submit at least, or make at least one submission before the deadline. That we will see that the deadline will be the day before the exam at midnight, okay? Yep. Nothing, 0%. But what do you mean? Do you mean that if I found two projects that have the table participants, then they will be, no?
I mean, for example, if I take first try, practically it goes poorly, and then I want to do it over.
But you mean submissions made by you?
Yeah.
No. The submissions made by you can do any change you want. Because at least because at the end I will just check the last one. Okay? So if you make like 5 submissions in the first one, I don't know, you did the database in some way, and in the second one you fix something, I will just take into account the second one. Is that the question? What do you mean? That, like the different exam sessions?
Yeah, sorry.
Ah, like the different apelos. Okay, yeah, good question. For each session, we will have a different exam. Okay, so the one I will show you today is the one for the first session, for the first apelo. Then for the second apelo, I will publish different requirements. Okay, different requirements concerning the description of the web application. It will be a different web application. The logistics and the rules of the exam will be the same, but the web application will be different. Okay. So, I can't tell you what to do, but in this case, I think it would be convenient for you to try to do the first session, no? Because at the end, you will have more time to work on it. You will have also all of the next week, you will have time to work in class on the text. You can ask questions to me. Yeah, ideally, if I were you, I would try to go for the first apelo. But okay, each one is free to make his own decisions and based on your specific situation. But at least with this first apelo, you will have more time and you will have the assistance in the next week. Okay. Questions? Clear? Okay, so the project must be submitted according to the deadlines. Okay, late submissions are neither allowed or acceptable. So if this, once again, if the only submission was made at 12 and 1 minute, it won't be accepted. Okay. So the alternative is make several submissions and don't leave the submission until the last minute or until the last moment. Also because, again, sometimes the portale fails. So in case the portale is not working, in case it takes a lot of time uploading the submission, better to have a backup submission made at least 1 day before. Okay. Nice, so this is the logistical requirements. Then the technical requirements. So the application must comply with the following technical requirements. So first of all, what I have told you before, we use HTML, CSS, relying, if necessary, on external frameworks such as Bootstrap, while customizing their style and the ad hoc rules. That is something that similar that to the thing that we did for the midterm assignment. No, it's using Bootstrap, but always trying to customize, always trying to change the style. So it's basically that. Then, as I told you before, you are expected to use Flask and SQLite as the relational database for the backend, and use Flask login for the authentication management. Yeah.
I want to ask, how will we submit the exam?
Through the portale. I will give you the instructions here after, but through a portale. Okay. Okay, clear? Then in addition, the web application must have a clearly defined target device type chosen by the student, but in this case, I of course suggest it to be desktop because it's the simplest one. Yeah. You can use, yeah. I mean, in the course, we didn't use the virtual environment. But yeah. Yeah, like to simplify the. Oh, okay, no, it's fine. It's acceptable. It's fine. No worries with that. Okay, you have to define a target device type. That in this case, please, there. Whoa. That you have to declare a specific target device type that I suggest it to be desktop because it's the one we have used and it's the easiest to work on. is it possible also to choose mobile or tablet? But since the space is limited, well, I would suggest in this case desktop, and we're done with that. Just one. In this case, it is different as the midterm assignment because I'm not asking to do like the responsive version of the application for each possible device, but just to choose one and do it. Okay? So it is just the desktop version of the application, and we are done with that. I'm not requiring here it to be responsive. Yeah.
So, therefore, does it mean that it is expected that if we, for example, choose next also, then the application will look better than
Yeah, there is no problem with that. I mean, what I ask is you to implement the correct bootstrap layout, but you just have to define the class or to keep the layout consistent for the desktop setup. Okay, so for each element, you are not supposed to create all of the classes for the small, for the medium, for the large, but just for the large. Okay. Okay. This one, in these requirements, is the one where everyone loses points in the final exam, and it is something very silly, very, very simple. That is that any forms used in the project must be validated both on the front end, meaning the required min, max. Do you remember when we did the HTML and we set like those properties? But also on the back end, okay? So everyone in the exams do the validation on the front side on the HTML, but not on the back end, which means checking that the information that you received was not empty, checking that it was a number, checking that it was a string, something like that, but on the Flask side of the application. So please don't forget this. The validations of the form should be done on the front end and on the back end. Yep.
So just to clarify, responsiveness is optional?
Yeah, it's not required. It's not required. So I won't take your application and I won't shrink the application to see how it behaves like in a phone or something like that. No. If you want to implement the responsiveness, nice.
But it doesn't contribute points?
No, I won't give points on that. But anyway, I am expecting to have like the structure, like the well-implemented structure. Even if I'm not asking the different layouts implemented, but if I were going to implement the other layouts, it should be possible with the structure that you implement. Okay, so please, with the forms validation, pay attention. Don't forget to do the validation both on the front end and the back end. The project must be testable on my computer and must work on Chrome or Firefox. Okay, this is. The source code must be well written and include the appropriate comments, whatever you consider the comments to be necessary. And all the technologies listed above must be integrated and consistently within a single web application. Okay? Questions? Okay. Then there is another technical requirement, and it is the deployment of the application in Python Anywhere. That was basically what we did in the last lab. Okay? So after you implement everything, you are supposed to deploy the application on Python Anywhere. For that deployment, you can of course take the document that I published for the lab that is written as a tutorial step by step, so it shouldn't be challenging, and well, it's just to publish it on Python Anywhere. Then concerning stylistic requirements, the application must comply with the following requirements. Use HTML tags semantically. For instance, we should avoid as much as possible, or where possible, just using the div, like the normal container. But I don't know if you remember the first classes that we saw that in HTML we have semantic tags. So when possible and where applies, use them. We will never use inline CSS declarations. Well, that was what we saw also at the beginning of the course. And the CSS rules must be kept in a different file, in a separated file, different from the HTML. But, I mean, these annotations are basically kind of obvious because we have been working on all of the course by doing the things in this way, okay? And in addition, the web application must be sufficiently usable. Yeah.
About the script that you'll be using, Python, HTML, and CSS.
Yeah.
But I see on the schedule that tomorrow you will explain.
I will explain something, some JavaScript, but I will try that the explanation of tomorrow will be very focused on some specific aspects of the application that I think could be somehow managed with JavaScript. When we read the application, I will tell you in which specific points of the application I think JavaScript might help. Although, since I'm explaining and since we are approaching JavaScript, like a very basic introduction to JavaScript, I'm not requiring you to implement a specific part of the application with JavaScript. I'm just giving you the tool in case you want to explore and see how JavaScript might be integrated, but I won't evaluate you on the use of JavaScript in the final application, okay? Okay, we will go to the application, but before that, just to complete the information on the logistic requirements, the project must be submitted through the Consegna Lavorati, the one in the Portale, on the page by 23:59 of 28 June, because the appello is supposed to be 29, so the night before you should be submitting everything. Once again, as a suggestion, let's try to think that here is not 28 but 27, okay? So try to submit something, at least one submission, one day before. If you submit something one day before and then you still have to do minor changes or adjusting details, it's fine. But let's try to think that this is not the final deadline, but a day before, so that you don't have any problem. The submission must contain a single zip file. So what you will do is, once you have finished everything, you know everything works, you will compress the folder with the project, and you will submit the compressed file, okay? And within that folder, we will find the source code, structured as we have structured all of the examples and the exercises we have been working on, including, okay, any dependencies in a file called requirements.txt, the images, and everything we have seen so far. You also have to include there the SQLite file representing the database, and that's all. And other from the source files, you are supposed to create a text document, a README, basically. So the same as the README that we did for the midterm assignment, you are supposed to create also a README in this case, specifying the user credentials, because as we will see, there will be users in our application that will have a username and a password. So in order to evaluate the application, I need to know what is the username and the password. Any instructions needed to test the web application, that ideally there shouldn't be any. And the URL where you deploy the application in Python anywhere. So this one is important because it's the only way that I can be sure that you deploy the application before the submission of the exam, okay? That you deploy the application in time, okay? So here I am expecting you to write a Python anywhere / and the name of your application, yeah. Sorry? No, this is because sometimes in Python, in the requirements.txt, you include like some external dependencies. But typically, well, we are not expecting to use this one.
So should you write there like?
If you used any external No, but in our case, since I'm already expecting you to use Flask login, and the ones that you have used in the course, you don't have to add them in the requirements of text. This one would be in the case where you use a different Python library, for instance. So if you use an external Python library for something, for instance,
Here you should include all the libraries.
no, not all the libraries, but just the ones different from the ones that we use in the course.
And if I use, for example, the virtual environment, do I have to write some text?
You can use the?
Virtual environment.
Sure, but what do you mean in this case?
Am I supposed to write in the requirements?
No, because the requirements is just like Python libraries. So, yeah. Maybe if you use the virtual environment, I would add something here, no? Like a line saying I use a virtual environment, and maybe the command line to activate such virtual environment on both. So, okay. Nice. So let's read the exam. Okay, so these are the functional requirements. The goal of this exam is to create a web application for managing free walking tours. I don't know if you are familiar with the concept of a free walking tour. Yes, no? What is it? No one? Okay. So a free walking tour is basically when you go to a city for a trip or something like that. There are some platforms where you can find tours done by some guide, okay? So for instance, I come to Turin and I enter to a platform and I see tours for instance, Torino city center, okay? I, as a participant, can book for that tour. Then I present there in some time and in some location. And there is the guide that takes me in that tour, a walking tour in the city. And by the end of the tour, I can give him or pay him whatever I want. So it's not free in the sense that you don't pay, but it's free in the sense that you pay whatever you want for the tour. Okay? So that's basically what the free walking tours are. Why are we creating a web application for it? Because it usually works through a platform. No? Because otherwise I wouldn't know where the free walking tours are offered or what is the offers of free walking tours. So the web application is for managing free walking tours in a city chosen by the students. So the first thing is that you must choose one city, the one you want. If you want Torino, if you want, you can choose. Yeah. Sure. There you have absolutely freedom to choose a city outside Italy, imaginary city, whatever you want, okay? But it is just one city.
Can we also change the language?
I will get to that. Okay, just to give you some context, a platform of this kind must be something. This one is an example of a platform of such kind. No? So here you get into a page and you can find different cities. In this case, to simplify, I'm asking you to choose one city and to do everything for one specific city. Okay. Anyway, if the design of the application is well structured enough, it shouldn't be difficult to extend this to several cities. But for the implementation of the exam, I'm asking you to choose one city. So for instance, here I choose Budapest. And here in Budapest, you can find like all of the tours in that city, no? So one is, for instance, highlights and secrets of Budapest in depth free tour. The first step for beginners, free tour of Budapest, the Jewish tour, like the different tours. So this is basically how a platform of this kind works. Yep.
For example, in the last page, there were many cities.
Yeah.
And I think that in a normal web app, there should be many
No, because instead in yours, well, we will get to that to the design because it's something. But in yours, I would expect this one to be free tour Torino, for instance. And here, instead of cities, because it wouldn't make any sense to have cities, I would show, for instance, which are the tours within that city. Okay, so we will try to focus or to assume this, thinking that we have chosen one city and that all of the tours that we're offering are in that city. Yeah.
So the web app will be not in general, it will be the web app dedicated to the city.
Yeah. In this case, I decided to fix one city because in such a way, like trying to simplify the application. Because if it were like different cities, it would add a lot of complexity in the design of the database, for instance, because in that case, you should have to model the cities. Within the cities, there are tours, but one tour belongs just to one specific city. So just to keep that, that specific entity out of the exam, I decided that you choose one city and you just create the tours for that specific city.
So it is not a tour website app. It's the Torino's tour website.
Something, free walking tours, Torino.
Okay.
Yeah. There are, let me. Well, so for instance, something like this, no? This one is just for Mexico. So the tours are all of them within Mexico. So in your case, it's all the tours, all of them inside the city that you choose, or the place that you choose, okay? And you are completely free to choose any city you want. If you want an imaginary city, it's fine, whatever, okay? Okay, in a city, free walking tours are guided tours, usually organized around a city, neighborhood, or specific theme, in which participants don't pay a fixed price in advance, but they may voluntarily reward the guide at the end of the experience. For simplicity, the application will focus on a single city chosen by the students, but the students are free to define the hours, their themes, the places visited, and the general style of the platform. Okay, so this is just a context, an introduction. The web application must support two types of registered users, the guides and the participants. Okay? The guides can create and manage the free walking tours offered on the platform. Before acting as a guide, the user must register and log in. Okay? During registration, the guide must provide their first name, the last name, the email address, and the languages that he speaks. For simplicity, the available languages are limited to the following 5 options: Italian, English, Spanish, Portuguese, and German. Okay? So I'm not asking here like a form with all of the possible languages and the user selecting from all of the possible languages, but let's keep it simple and let's say that we will offer the possibility to register a guide with 5 languages.
Do we choose other languages?
You are free to, but I will just require 5, okay? Clear? Okay, the email address must be unique and will be used to identify the user on the website. Does this mean that the email address will be the primary key? No. I'm just saying it will be unique, but this doesn't mean that it will be the primary key. The primary key is always the auto-increment number in the first column, okay? So it will be unique, it won't be the primary key. Well, someone selected, highlighted the whole text. Can you? Who was that? Okay. There is also, I mean, of course, you will be asking me this question because it always happens. It will be kind of, oh no. When the guide registers himself, he can, in the registration, specify that he is registering as a guide. Okay. This might be strange because in real life, maybe it is not the guide himself who registers, but it's someone else or an administrator or something like that. But in this case, we will suppose that we will give the chance to anyone to register in our platform as a guide. Okay?
The registration page needs to let you choose if you want to register as a guide or as a participant.
Yeah. It might work in that way. Anyway, take into account, okay, we will go to the participants, but the guides are the ones who specify which languages they speak. The participant, no. So it is different, the kind of data that we collect from a participant and the one that we collect from a guide.
I do have a question. When we have essentially 2 or 3 different type of accounts, if we're also doing administration, then in the Flask, how can we, because I mean we have login required, but if a page should only be accessible by the guide, for example, how can we achieve that?
Also with Flask login, because you remember that we represented the user models, and within the user model we can define which attributes that a user has. So there, for instance, you can have an attribute type, and based on the fact that he's a participant or a guide, you can show something. Okay.
In the login required decorator, can you also specify the user type?
No, in that case, you can just ask the user to be logged in for a specific option. Yeah. No, in that case, it's just logged in. But then you have to check in the backend that the requirement was done by a user that has been registered as a user or as a participant or as a guide. Yep.
These guides are so different entities. There is no one single entity user, for example.
And that one is a choice that you can make. Yeah. You can decide, I want to represent the users as a single entity, and then for the guides that have another set of data, I will represent them into a one-to-one relation in a different table. Or you can say, I will have a table for the participants and a table for the guides. Both. And both of them are fine. That's important. There is not one single possible solution against I will compare your submission, but there are like several possible solutions. If you can justify why you took some design choices, okay? Yeah.
So when this account wants to be a guide, they need to create another account.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they use the same email,
Mm.
not work.
It depends, because if you represent that into two different tables, it's possible.
Okay.
But in that case, for instance, when doing the login, you must give him the option to specify is he's logging in as a guide or as a participant, for instance.
When you log in as participant.
Yeah. So even if the text is simple, you can see these questions let us understand that there are so many choices and so many considerations to have when implementing the application, okay? So that's why I will give you time until Friday to ask all of the questions that you have here in the document, okay? So if you click here or in any part of the document, all of that have the link can create a new comment, okay? So in this comment, you can ask any questions you want. These kind of questions. Are the participants supposed to be different from the any questions that come to your mind. Okay, participants can browse the available tours and reserve a place in one or more tours. Before making a reservation, participants must register and log in. Okay. During the registration, each participant must provide their first name, last name, and email address. And the email address must be unique and will be used to identify the user on the website. So a typical question here is, but other than the first name, the last name, and the email address, should the participant give a password? And the answer is yes, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to authenticate. Okay, so even if it's not written, if we want to enable the authentication, we should also capture a password from the user. A participant cannot become a guide. Okay, so it is not that I register as a participant and I have an option to upgrade to a guide. And a guide cannot make participations, reservations as a participant. Okay, so two different roles. Okay. Up so far, it's clear the users that the application will be managing. Perfect. So each free walking tour is created and managed by a single guide and must include the following mandatory information. So the title of the tour, the guide who created and manages the tour, well, I don't know if if I give you a hint, but in this case, for instance, the guide who created and manages the tour, are we required to ask that information in a form? No, because we think that if the guide is creating the tour, we're able to know what is the guide that is creating the tour, and we can associate it to him. Okay, then the weekly schedule of the tour, specifying the days of the week and the corresponding start time for each selected day. Also, for simplicity, each tour can have at most one start time per day. Okay, so it means that on Monday it might be at 10, on Tuesday it might be at 11, and on Friday it might be at 3 in the afternoon at 15. Okay. What I'm saying here is that for simplicity, we won't give the option to have more than one tour on the same day. Okay?
So 1 tour per day.
Yeah. Is it clear? Yep.
1 tour per day of each single tour, or in general? Like, can I have 3 different tours on the same day?
You can have 3 different tours on the same day. Yeah. 3 different tours on the same day. But one single tour will be scheduled just one per day. Yeah.
Like, we are assuming that there is no like one-time tours or a tour every 2 weeks.
No.
So
We will keep it simple.
each week the tour has to repeat.
Yeah, each week the tours repeats. Okay. In a more complex, realistic scenario, we would give that chance. For instance, in the month of June, the tour will be each week. And maybe in the winter, it will be just once in a month, something like that. But in this case, just to keep it simple, why I'm doing those assumptions? Because, for instance, something as saying that one tour can be booked or scheduled 2 times in the same day, in the database adds a lot of complexity compared to 1 day, 1 time, 1 tour. Okay, so just to keep it simple is the reason why I'm doing those assumptions. Okay, so a specific tour, there is just one version of the tour per day. Clear?
But the same tour can happen more than once on different days.
Yep. Yeah. So the tour can be all of the days of the week, all of the days. Okay. Okay, it has a meeting point. Being a meeting point,
How can it be represented?
you can choose. If you want to save the coordinates, if you want to choose just a string and represent it with a string. So for instance here, the meeting point, he represented just with a string. And also with the coordinates, because otherwise he won't be able to show it in Google Maps. So, but you are free to choose how to represent the tour.
Is this something we are able to do? Like include a map?
Yeah, it's not so difficult. It's something feasible. Okay, the duration expressed in minutes. So if it is 2 hours, then it should be saved as 120 minutes. The language in which the tour is offered, and there is just one language per tour. Okay. The maximum number of participants allowed. So, for instance, this tour the maximum number of participants is 5, 6, 7, whatever the guide chooses. This one, the list of stops included in the tour, okay, corresponding to the names of the places visited during the itinerary. So if, for instance, the tour is Torino Center, then in the itinerary I would set, well, I don't know, the cathedral, the Via Roma, okay, you know what's the idea, okay? So the list of places that the tour passes by. Yeah.
Can it also have no places? Like you go on a hike in a mountain and you have no.
Yeah, yeah.
Should the waypoints also be coordinates or just names?
You are free to, if you want just to keep it like names, it's fine. But in that case, for instance, in the mountain, I would, for instance, set like the, how do you call that? The refugio, the place where you arrive, or something like when you reach a given peak in the mountain, something like that. So yeah, let's try to add some stop. Okay, if it is something like in the mountain, so it won't be as in the city specific places or locals, but yeah, some kind of a stop or a step in the mountain should be added there as the stops included in the tour. Of course, a brief description of the tour and a set of 5 promotional pictures. So for each tour, you will add 5 pictures. Okay? Of course, the language of each tour must be chosen from the languages spoken by the guide. So if the guide registered himself saying that he spoke Italian and Spanish, you can't create a tour, or he can't create a tour in English, for instance. Okay, so you should check or do some check to give him the option just to choose or to create the tour from the languages that he speaks. So far, questions? Is everything clear?
Is the guide able to change their languages after they register?
No, let's say no. He should, but let's say no. Okay, so here students, referring to you, of course, are free to choose the themes of the tours. For example, tours may be historical, artistic, architectural, gastronomic, literary, cinematic, musical, political, alternative, or related to a local legends or traditions. So here you are completely free to choose whatever you want. Of course, I would expect the same as in the midterm assignment, that depending on the topic and on the theme and on the choice that you make on this, the graphical interface should be somehow consistent with that, no? So if, for instance, the tour is about mystery places in Turin, I would expect like some kind of user interface consistent with that, no? And kind of decorated with that and with that specific theme and color and, okay?
The platform should choose one specific style of tour, or it can offer various?
It can also offer different types. But if you choose a specific theme, it should be consistent with what you choose. Okay. Okay. Fine. Guides can create new tours and modify the information of their own tours as long as no reservation has been made for that tour. Okay? So he is able to change the information of a given tour if it has no reservations. Once at least one participant has reserved a place for any date of the tour, the guide can no longer modify the essential information of the tour, such as the schedule, the meeting point, the duration, the language, or the maximum number of participants. Okay? So when modifying a tour, you should check that there are not participants registered in that tour.
Are they able to change it if, like, they did already a past tour, but there is no reservation for a future one?
No, I didn't understand.
I mean, the tour is, if it's every week, so if they already did one meeting with people, and then, but next week nobody has registered yet, so can they edit it?
Okay, for upcoming, yeah. In this case, he should check just the upcoming ones. Yeah. So please, for instance, that question, write it here, okay? So that I can answer that question and we don't forget that information.
Are they also able to delete the tour?
No, delete no. Okay, all the tours, so please, that question, write it here so that I can remember to answer it again and eventually do modifications on the text. Okay, all the tours are visible to any user, including unregistered users, okay? So well, it's basically the same as here. I'm not registered in this site, but I can see all of the available tours, because otherwise I wouldn't register in the site if I don't know what's the offer of the tour. So the tours should be visible to any user, including unregistered users. On the application homepage, the users will see a brief version of the available tours, and non-authenticated users, by using filters, must be able to explore the tours according to the date, duration, and language. So these three aspects will work as filters. So if I want to check which tours will be offered or will be provided tomorrow, I should have that option, even if I'm not authenticated. Or the tours that are less than 2 hours or more than 3 hours, something like that, I can check also by duration and also by language. Okay? Yeah.
They are three separate filters, or the user is like for the user is mandatory to filter by all the three?
No, they are three different. I mean, if the question is if you have to fill all of them, no. You can just, for instance, specify the duration, and you don't care the language. So you just specify the duration. Or you can specify the three of them. I want to see which ones are going to be offered tomorrow that will last 2 hours and that will be in English. And in that case, the filter should also work and filter the tours that comply that condition. And by clicking on a tour, the users must be able to view the full version of the tour, including all the mandatory information listed above. Okay? Okay, after logging in, a participant can reserve a place for the tour. Participants reserve a specific date of the tour, selected from the dates available according to the tour's weekly schedule. When making a reservation, the participant must choose the date on which they want to join the tour. Okay? By default, the reservation is made for the participant himself, but the participant may also add up to 3 additional people on the same reservation by providing their names. Okay? So it is not me as a participant. I can of course register myself and book a tour for myself, but I should also have the option to add myself and 3 more people. Is clear the idea? And for the 3 more people that I'm registering, I must just provide their names. Okay? So if we, for instance, are going into a tour, the 3 of us, we should not be registered each one individually, but I can register you two, for instance. Therefore, a single reservation might include from 1 to 4 people. The system must prevent reservations that exceed the maximum number of participants allowed for the selected date. For instance, if a tour has only 2 available places left on a given date, a participant cannot make, of course, a reservation for 3 people. Okay?
The additional people must be registered people.
No, 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 no. For the additional people, you must just set their names and that's all. Okay. Please add that question there in the text. Okay. Reservations can be canceled by participants only if the cancellation is made at least 24 hours before the start time of the selected tour date. So me as a participant, I can cancel my reservation just if I cancel it 1 day before the starting date of the tour. Okay? If the tour is today in the afternoon, then I must not be able to cancel a reservation. After this deadline, the reservation can no longer be canceled. Once a reservation has been completed, it must be visible in the participant's profile page. The profile page must show the tours reserved by the participant, including the date, start time, meeting point, number of people included in the reservation, and the names of any additional participants. Guides must have a profile where they can view all of the tours they have created, and for each tour, the guides must be able to see the list of reservation and the total number of expected participants for each scheduled date.
Are participant users also able to see, like, click on a guide and see their tours? Or just the guide should see this?
No, just the guide can see this information, yeah. I mean, a participant can know which are going to be the tours offered by a guide, and he should not be able to see which are the participants because that's private just for the guide.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, is there also like a public profile page?
Let's keep that one optional. Okay, so please, again, write the question here so that I can specify that that one is optional. And this is kind of the last requirement. Since the guides must pay a commission to the platform for the tours that they have actually taken places, so for the tours that in real life happen, because as you can see, or as you can imagine, there are tours that maybe no one booked, so that tour in real life should not occur. So the application must also include a post-tour reporting functionality. That is, for each tour date that has already taken place, and at least there was one reservation, the guide must be able to declare the number of participants who actually attended the tour. So the guide must be able to say 5 participants attended this tour, and he must upload 1 photo showing the participants as the evidence that the tour was carried out. Okay? So in real life, it works like that. When you take a free walking tour, by the end of the tour, the guide usually says, can we take a picture? And he takes a picture, and he does because he needs to upload that picture or to send that picture to someone to verify that the tour occurred and how many participants the tour had. So in our case, instead of, we will implement functionality specifically for this aspect. So through our platform, they will be able to upload the picture and to declare the number of participants in the tour. Okay?
Is there some deadline for them?
No. After the tour. The only condition is after the tour.
So how is it like enforced?
How is?
It's enforced.
What do you mean?
Like, why should they upload it?
Because based on that picture is how they will be paid. I mean, the guide must upload the picture because that's the proof that he has that the tour happened.
So do the people pay also through the platform?
No, the people pay to him. So for instance, you are the guide, I pay you 10 euros and I pay you the 10 euros
If I was paid, then
in cash.
why should I upload the picture?
No, yeah, of course, it depends on all the trust, but it usually works like that because let's say that, for instance, in the platform, 50 people registered to your tour, but in the real life, just 10 of them presented. And the platform will ask you the commission for 50 people. So the way you have to show that 50 people, that there were not 50 people, but just 10, is by uploading the picture and declaring the real number of people that presented there, okay? And also in the opposite case. It's just like the way that the platform has to ask for a commission to the guide, okay?
Can't I then take a picture with 2 people and say that I'm
There is always a way to cheat the platform, but well.
In the database, there is not to see how much participants take the guide.
No. We won't ask the guide to register that information. Also because in real life it doesn't happen like that. In real life there is like a fixed commission that is independent from how much money you received. So in real life, in the free walking tours, they say I mean, anyone can choose how much to give, but it has like a suggested price that is consistent with how much commissions they have to give. Okay. But no, they don't have to register the payment. Okay, and this is basically all. Upon submission, the web application must contain some sample data, allowing the instructor to test the functionalities. So once you finish the application, you must register participants and guides. Specifically, it must include at least 2 guides, 3 participants, and several tours with different schedules, languages, and durations, so that we can test the application during the oral examination, okay? So the usernames and passwords of the sample accounts must be provided to the structures for verification. So what I told you here, the user credentials, I refer to that. No? What is the email and the password of the users that you register in the platform? Okay, and this is maybe, for me, is kind of one of the most important things. It's basically, let's try not to think of this exam as the typical exam here at the Politecnico that I give you 100 requirements and you have to fulfill each of them exactly as I'm expecting you to fulfill that. More than that, I would encourage you to express your creativity and to try to do something nice, something that is aligned with your interests, to choose the way you want to present information, to choose the layout, to choose which components are you going to use for the forms, which components are you going to use for the filters. Indeed, my idea is that, to stimulate you to choose and to be as creative as possible. So those kind of questions like, Professor, I'm allowed to use, instead of a text field, a slider? Yeah, of course, you are encouraged either to use a slider, okay? So you're encouraged to express the creativity in choosing the city, the themes, and the visual identity of the platform. The places, okay, everything, okay? The goal is to create an original and personalized project. Why did I show you this platform, for instance? Because somehow I would love you to think this as a challenge. Are we able to do something nicer than this one? Are we able to implement something that looks better than this one, that is easier to use than this one, for instance? And my advice is also before starting to implement the application, well, let's try to do some research on internet. So if we search in if we find for Turing free walking tour, what do we find? So we find this platform, that is another one, that is Get Your Guide, and we find something like this. And again, the question is, can we do something nicer than this one? Does our application might be, and even also as a suggestion, as an advice, you can register on this one and check how it works, the reservation, check how they manage things, so that you can get inspiration and that you can get an idea of how to improve a platform such as this one. Okay? Okay, and the last thing here that is super important, since this course is in the table, in some table, there must be given the option to do the prova finale in this course. So from what I understood, it is not for everyone, but just for the ones who want to apply for the prova finale done in this course. What I decided is that I will ask for the students that want the extra requirement of the prova finale to implement an additional functionality. So, important, this is optional. This is not for everyone. It's just for the ones in the prova finale, okay? So the students who need to complete the prova finale may extend the project by implementing an additional platform administrator profile, okay? For simplicity, the application will include only one administrator account. So if you want to create it directly on the database, admin, and okay, just one administrator. And the platform administrator doesn't create tours and doesn't make reservations. Instead, he has, because it's just one, okay? So it's not several administrators, but just one profile that is the administrator profile. He has access to a dedicated administration page where he can view general information about the platform, okay? So in particular, the administrator must be able to view the list of all registered users, view the main information associated with each guide, the tours created by each guide. It's basically a dashboard. What I'm asking is you to implement a dedicated page, ideally dedicated for an administrator, in which he can have a overlook of how the platform is behaving and how many guides, how many tours, some basic statistics.
How is this accessed? This admin needs to log in? Is there like a specific?
No, that's why I give you the chance. Instead of creating him a login page, you can, in the backend or hard code the user credentials, for instance, in the database, without creating a form for registration or for authentication. Or if it is easier, you can create like a login page, specifically a registration page, specifically for the administrator. Yeah.
So there will be 3 different login pages.
Yeah. Eventually, you can have 3 of them. Yeah.
For each platform, only one admin, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this graded?
Yeah, because the prova finale has some grade.
We will receive a grade.
Yeah, but in this case, for the prova finale, it's more like a binary grade. So yeah, that you complete the prova finale or you didn't complete the prova finale.
So you will not grade it, or you will put 30, or how will it work?
For someone that doesn't have to do the prova finale, it won't have any grade. You won't earn points for doing the prova finale.
I think most people have it.
But for the ones that have the prova finale, yeah, I will. But it is just a binary grade or binary evaluation.
There is not a grade still.
No, I think there is no grade such as from 0 to 30. I think it isn't. I think I just must register if you approve the pro finale or if you didn't approve the pro finale. If there were a grade, I would give the same grade that you get on the exam. That I think is the first thing to do, no?
Okay, and how is the grade on the fall exam done? Because I mean, there in the document it is not called.
In the whole exam? Okay, good question. I will create an Excel document, and then I will have like all of the items in there. So, for instance, the participants' functionalities, the guides' functionalities, and then I will have like different aspects evaluating some of the most technical part of the project.
Okay.
And then that day that you present, I will be completing the Excel, and then at the end you get a grade from 0 to 30.
And is also the visual styles used like the design?
Yeah.
The visual design?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. There will be a point on that.
So for the admin, there is no registration. Just log in, and we just put in like a text file that okay, if you want to be admin, you enter these credentials.
Yeah, you might. As it is easier for you, because I won't ask you to create a new page for the. But if you find that it's easier to create that page for the admin registration, it's fine.
But
Yeah.
there should be like a login.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can get the authentication flow for the user and the guide. So at first, everyone registers as a user, and then
As a
can
user.
register as a guide.
No, because here is written that a participant cannot become a guide, and a guide cannot make reservations as a participant. So it's not something that you register as a participant and then you upgrade the profile to become a guide. No, it should be a different registration.
Or in the homepage we have login register as
As a user or register as a, yeah.
okay, and the login page can be unified or the same.
It can be in the same one, and you give some option to register as a to log in as a user and as a participant, or both. It depends. So, for instance, that's something that tomorrow we can see with JavaScript how to deal with that, no? So, for instance, that if the page displays there, and if I select the option register as a participant, it shows me one form, and if I click on register as or log in as a guide, it shows me a different form. So it's something very silly with JavaScript, but that is useful for that specific functionality.
For the admin, you can simply just do like an email and password for the database table for the admin.
For the admin, what?
For the table of admin in the database, we can just simply have the field email and password.
Yep. Yeah. Just email and password. You don't have to represent the name. Okay. Now I was going to show you the table, but it should be okay, something like this, no? I'm sorry that I show it here, but it's just not for displaying the names. But it won't be exactly the same, but something like this. So for the registration, I allocate some points. Of course, these are not the points the number of points that I will use, but for each of the functionalities, a specific amount is given, and then for the technical requirements. Okay. Yeah.
Is there a minimum amount of pages that we have to include, or we can choose to include 2, 3, 4?
The minimum amount of pages? No. You are free to implement as many rules as you think that they are needed. Yeah. No. That's okay. Questions? Is everything completely clear? Nice. So as I told you before, you are able to ask any question you want here in the document. I will try to answer all of the questions and do any eventual modifications on the file depending on the questions. And by Friday, we will have like the final exam version on which you can start working the exam. Okay?
Next week, when we have working time, are we also able to, ask questions and get some help?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Because sometimes some requirements are even things that we haven't really done in labs or like,
Yeah.
like the filters.
Yeah.
So, like, we just have to figure it out.
How to make them work. Sure.